Hello, and thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning into this episode recorded for the first week of August in 2020. And I wanted to jump into a couple of the things I've been doing through the month of July and some of the outdoor camping and travel stuff I've been up to. I was going to run down some of that in this podcast today. I wanted to talk about a trip I did out toward Eastern Oregon. I think like it was a week before last is when I was out in this area, and I was trying to get some good observations in for Comet Neowise. I'm not sure if any of you guys got to check that out while it was in its prime viewing section there. I think that was while we had kind of like the new moon before it switched over to being a gibbous moon or a nearly full moon like it's been the last week or so. But I think what was it, around like the 15th through the 25th or so of July, there were some pretty good observations to be made of Comet Neowise. And I guess after kind of reading about it a little bit, it's not considered a great comet like Hal Bopp was, or I think it was it Hayataki in 1996. We haven't had a great comet in a long time. I remember seeing those when I was a kid, though, and that was pretty cool, watching Hal Bopp come through for, it seemed like 3 months or something, that you were just kind of looking at that in the low corners of the northwestern and western sky as it was kind of cruising across the skyline there. I remember that still from like third, fourth grade when it was coming through. And I also remember the year before that when like straight up in the air, like straight up in the sky at night it was only like a week or so. I was a kid, but I remember for that week you could see a real bright two-tailed comet that was going through. I can't remember how to pronounce it. I think it's Hayataki, or I think it's some Japanese name. I'm pretty sure. But that was a really cool one. That one I still remember really clearly. And I was only like, I don't know, 7 or something when that comet came through. But I really appreciated getting to make some observations of that one when I was a kid. I missed Halley's Comet, though, back in, 87, I think was the last one it came through. And I probably will be the few years or that decade or two of age range that doesn't get to see Halley's Comet in their lifetime. So I think I was born in 88, of course. So if I make it past 100, then maybe I'll see it. What is it? Maybe like 80-something years. So it's probably not going to come back around until, I think it's like the 2070s or 2080s that I'd have to make it to see Halley's Comet again. It'd be fun, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see how the future is at that time. But it was really cool to get to see Comet Neowise. It was just a little below what would be the legs and feet of Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, or like the Big Bear, as it would kind of be observed. But if you kind of look at the Dipper part that we're all mostly familiar with, if you kind of consider Ursa Major the larger bear constellation that it's structured on, if you kind of look down below the Dipper is where I was able to make my observations of Comet Neowise. And over here at the elevation area that I'm at, in Western Oregon, it's about 200 or 300 feet above sea level, and there's kind of a constant problem with haze and with light pollution in this area, and I think it has to do something with of course, the amount of population that's around, but also there's something about the air quality or about how the air kind of flows out around here that just doesn't ever seem to be as crisp or as dark as you can get up in the mountains. And really, it's just like a stunning difference when you're able to get out further and make some more clear observations. Just the level of magnitude of stars that you're able to reveal just in a dark night is so much more crisp and clear. It's just like it's a total difference. So it was cool to I think I first was able to spot just a little fuzzy bit of a second magnitude version of Comet Neowise while I was here in town, but I tried to make a special trip out toward Eastern Oregon, out into the desert, just to do some camping stuff. But what I wanted to do at the same time was make some good observations and also try and get some good photographs of Comet Neowise as it was coming through during its period where you could make some good sightings of it. But it was cool. So going out to Eastern Oregon, as it got dark, a little past 10:30 or so, as you looked to the northwest, you could really see the comet and its tail spread for a couple inches in the sky. And I was really surprised to notice how little of it you could really make out or see when you're in an area of almost any light pollution. Once you're back in town, or once you're in a lower elevation area with some light pollution and haze around, it was really difficult to make out in the same way that I could out in the desert or out in the mountains. And so I thought that was pretty cool to get to see and get to check out over there. But yeah, it was a blast getting to do some stuff out in Eastern Oregon. I went over to the John Day River area, and I was checking out that area. There's a lot of public land out in that area, but there's also a lot of private land too. It's just kind of an interesting area how it's sort of broken up, and it was cool to get to go out to, though. I headed out to Madras, and then I took off and headed over east of there until I ran into the John Day River, and then I was able to use this map that I have to go through and find some of the open the open roads that are the smaller gravel roads that are set up to kind of traverse the backcountry out there. So I was able to find a few of those that were open and travel around on those for a while. And that was pretty cool. I was able to find some dispersed campsites and set up right along the John Day River, which was really cool. It's a beautiful area out there. It's kind of interesting. The John Day River flows through this sort of, I guess it would be, I don't know, it's kind of like canyon land, and it's also sort of these rolling grass hills that sort of make up the landscape of northern and northeastern Oregon. And I think, as soon as you kind of get a little bit north of Bend is when you get out of the Great Basin area, and you start to get into another kind of landscape that seems to stretch up north of the Columbia River up into Washington. I've heard that some of it's from like really old deposits from the river systems and the waterways that were up there, and how there's old deposits and then erosion that's happened from those rivers running through the area for such a long time. But really cool to see kind of the rolling hills and then some of the carved out canyons that go through the John Day River area up there. When I found the campsite I was at, I was pretty far away from everybody, and I was really far away from any substantial town. I think I was near, I don't even know what it is. There wasn't anything there when I drove through it. There was a bridge and a couple little ranch houses, real ranches, right? Like just a little house, like a little 2-bedroom house, and then 100 acres of cattle to deal with. So it seems like another life out there. I wonder how they're dealing with, kind of the way of the world as things are this summer. But it was cool. Yeah, getting out there. Went kind of set up my campsite and stuff, had my truck going, and that was all pretty easy going. But then I waited till dark. After 10:30, Comet Neowise was really visible up below the Big Dipper. That was pretty cool to get to see out there in Eastern Oregon. Really bright, really clear. You could almost make out the second tail. I had my binoculars with me. I think there's some 10 by 42s, and those worked really well to view it, to view the comet. Looked really crisp through the binoculars, and really easy to spot most of the night. Even just to the naked eye, it was really easy to spot. It was just like, oh yeah, it's right there. There's a comet. It's just a big wisp in the sky. So it was really cool to get to view it. What I did is I set up my tripod, and I have my camera with me, and so I set it up with a really wide angle, and then I was trying to get some photographs of it as the comet was sort of coming down to set on the landscape of the hillside, as the hours went on into the night. So I think I stayed out until maybe 1 or 2 in the morning when the Big Dipper was sort of scooping down a little low onto the horizon. And then at that point, the place where the comet was dipped below the horizon and then was out of view for the rest of the evening, and I think even into the morning. I think by that time when I was photographing it, it wasn't visible any longer up in the morning sky. I think they said, at first in early July, you could kind of view it around Capella if you were able to get out early enough, say 3 or 4 in the morning. But as the direction as it was moving, it was kind of creeping up pretty quickly. Day over day over day, it would kind of move a good chunk through the sky. And in the direction that it was moving to be more visible at the nighttime, which really offered more hours of good observation time, which I thought was pretty cool. To wait until it was really dark enough in the northwest view of the sky, probably about 10:30 onward is when you're finally able to make out those kind of finer points of light in the sky in that region. So it was really cool. Set up the tripod, set up the camera, set up some manual focus to get it kind of set sharp at night. You can't use autofocus when you're trying to make photographs of the night sky and the stars, because it just kind of seeks back and forth. So you have to set it to manual focus and then ring out your focus ring to infinity and then just back a little bit. You'll notice this every time if you do it. It's really frustrating in the dark because you can't really always make it out in an easy way and edit your mistake quickly. But if you go all the way to infinity and then take pictures there of the night sky, you're going to notice that those points of light that are the stars sort of end up a little fuzzy. And it's because all the way to infinity, for whatever reason, just isn't quite in focus at infinity. So you have to go all the way out to infinity and then back it off just a little bit. And that'll nearly ensure that most of that part of the image is in focus the whole way. And it's difficult even if you do have an f-stop that's a little bit more tightened out, say like an f4 or f6 or something, you're still going to get a lot of that out of focus softness if the focus ring isn't really dialed into the right spot. So I tried to work on that a little bit and, dialed in my focus, was able to set it up with a reasonable ISO to get some images of the night sky and pick up some of those finer points of light. And then I was able to take a series of photographs in a few different locations out there in the John Day River Valley, which I thought was really cool. It was pretty to be out there, and it was a nice night, really warm in the river canyon, and really remote too. Like I was mentioning, I think I was the only person out there for a few miles. I saw another group coming in on they had like a little mid-size SUV, and they were going fishing out at a bend in the river a couple miles up from where I was. And so I took my truck down a little further and camped out just on the side of the river. It was cool. A nice green river up to the kind of high desert tan rim rock that runs the area around there. So it was a cool evening, cool campsite area. It was a cool spot to check out Comet Neowise too. So I tried to check it out up until, I don't know what, 1:30 in the morning when I couldn't see it anymore, and then spent the night out there, out in the John Day River area, and then the next morning got up and tried to check out some of the different roads and stuff that went around in that area. So it was all pretty cool. I was glad I was able to get out there and do some comet watching over the last couple